All right, what's up, everybody? Happy Saturday. Welcome back to another Comic Collector Origins. This is episode number 27. Holy crap. It's been awesome to be able to continue doing this and being pretty consistent here. Got my fourth guest of the year, which is crazy that we're already gone through January. Kind of nuts. Anyways, if you guys are just joining in, appreciate it. Make sure you hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. If you're watching the replay, I appreciate you taking the time to do that as well. I always appreciate the support. You guys have been awesome. The community has been awesome. If you're new here, Comic Collector Origins is all about the community. It's about interviewing individuals that are part of this comic book community, whether you're on YouTube or Instagram or both or Facebook or anywhere. And you enjoy the hobby and have the passion similar to the rest of us. So what I do is interview my guests from time to time again and try to get some details on their origin story. Because, I love how we always talk about origin stories of superhero characters, first appearances of superhero characters. So I thought it was a great way to be able to apply that to the community and talk to the collector about what their origin story is, how they got started, what their first appearance is, at a Comic-Con or at a shop, a LCS for the first time, things like that. So really excited to have the guest that I have here today. It's Kevin, aka Kevin Karate Kevin 67 over on Instagram. He's probably you might know him also from YouTube. He goes by Superpower Review, and been talking with Kevin now for at least like 8 months or maybe more than that. I know it was definitely, I started this channel around 7 months ago, maybe 8 months ago, and he's definitely stood out to me more once I joined the YouTube community. And he definitely has a very well-built channel for sure over on YouTube. So if for somehow you don't know about him or haven't followed him, make sure you sub him up. His information is down below, both for YouTube and Instagram. But let me bring him on here, and then we'll say hello to the chat. And there he is. Kev, what's up, brother? Good to see you, man.
Good to see you. Thank you so much for having me on today. I'm honored. Thank you.
Oh, dude, absolutely, man. It's been something I feel like we've been building up to. As I was just saying, and we were kind of talking about behind the scenes before, is I was going back and trying to think like when we first connected and what were some of the things that stood out to me, because I always like to try to establish that with whoever I have on as a guest, because usually I've known them for at least 5-6 months or longer. So one of the things that really stood out to me was you did a video with your mom asking her about the top 10 Marvel characters or superhero characters you would show a picture of, and it was perfect because it was right at the time that I did the same thing with my girlfriend, and you commented on it. You're like, dude, I just did this with my mother, and I was like, oh, that's so great. So I went and watched it. Hilarious, so much fun, and we kind of just hit it off ever since. Followed you on Instagram, been seeing you do so much with the community, a lot that I need to catch up on, because you do have a lot of different shows. I know you have another show coming up after this, so you're a busy, very busy guy, but you're great to the community. So thanks for being on, brother.
Yeah, no, thank you for having me on for sure. And I think I was actually subscribed to you before you even did the thing, guess that character with your girlfriend. I'm pretty sure I've been subscribed to you since day one, and because I clicked on it, I think maybe John's Comics with Kids recommended your channel on Instagram, and sure enough, I'm always looking for new people to go help and support right away. And so as soon as I saw your channel, and you seemed very comfortable on camera, and that's important in YouTube. You gotta be comfortable. Sure. You can't be anxious, and I gotta learn that more too. But because there's a lot. There's sometimes where I'm on a show, I'm like, oh, like I'm anxious about this one today. But no, you were comfortable. You had a good open, and you just had like a great collection, and I wanted to see more. So I just clicked that subscribe button right away.
Oh, man, I appreciate it, and you're absolutely right, man. Being there from day one, it's been great, and I just met so many great people. I say that every show, I feel like, but as I was just saying to you, next time I'm up in your area up north, and hopefully the pandemic is over and it's safe to go out again, then we'll hit up a con together, or we'll go to a LCS or something, and and do some hunting together. That would be really cool.
For sure.
All right, cool. So let's before we get into any fun questions, I do want to just say a quick hello to the chat. So let's start with Steve. Hip Hops and Me is in the house. It's about to go down. Dude is hanging out early. We got JB, Discovery Bay Comics. What's up, JB? Good to see you, brother. Just watched a recent premiere of his for the new comics coming out. He's got a lot of stuff going on his channel as well. So appreciate you stopping in, my friend. We got Kavi in the house, Comic Books NYC. Kavi, at some point, we certainly are going to have to do a redo with me and you on this show, because I know the first time around I did it over on Instagram, and would love to have that content be put over here. So we'll have to work something out, Kavi. But thank you for stopping in. Another Team Nerd Herd crew member is Alonzo. What's going on, Comics and Pops? Appreciate you, brother, as well. Thank you guys for sharing this and swinging by and just hanging out in the chat. I really appreciate all the support. And again, anybody catching the replay, thank you as well, guys. Make sure you hit that like and subscribe button and all that other fun stuff too. And if you guys aren't following Kevin, make sure all his information is in the description below. So hit him up there as well. Absolutely. So Kev, we will go back and forth with the chat here, and feel free to chime in at any given point. You know, we can take this in any direction, really. Kavi says, yes, definitely a redo for sure.
Redo.
Yeah. So, all right. So let's just start off with this. I mean, when did it start for you? When did, like, you know, before collecting, even just the idea of reading and just being interested in characters and superheroes and the idea of comics in general, how old were you? When did that start?
Yeah, so man, this branches off into many different areas. Okay, so growing up, being a '90s baby, I was huge into Street Sharks. I don't know if you remember Street Sharks.
A little bit.
Okay, so so my first comic book as a kid that I can remember at the age of 5 or 6 years old was a Street Sharks #1, because I was absolutely obsessed with that show. And you know, growing up more throughout the 90s, I think, you know, if you're a 90s kid like me, I think one of the biggest influences for you to get into comic books or comic book characters was the 90s shows, the 90s animated shows. As you know, we had the Batman animated show, we had the Spider-Man animated show. And so those were all great segues into getting into these characters, falling in love with these characters. When I was a kid, also, my brother and I used to watch the Teenage Mutant Turtles movies to death.
Hell yeah.
So, you know, Secret of the Ooze was my favorite, you know what I mean, as a kid. And so that was a lot of the things that got me into loving these characters. And my dad used to take my brother and I a lot to what we would call a magazine store, and they used to have comic books there. And my dad would allow me to pick out one comic book. And to anybody who doesn't know me, you know, other besides comic book characters, I'm a massive Godzilla fan. So I would pick out Godzilla all the time, and that was the Dark Horse run from by King of the Monsters Godzilla. And so I really wish I had those comic books to this day. I don't have them. I did pick up one that I used to have in the collection about maybe a year ago, but I would like to slowly hunt down those comic books. But I think that the TV shows, the movies, and, you know, my dad buying me comic books as a kid, those were the big things. And of course, my brother, I have an older brother. He's, you know, into these characters too. He's not as heavy as a comic book collector as I am, but he does have a passion for these characters as well. But we used to grow up reading comics together too. You know, Batman comics, Absolute Carnage. That was a big thing in the 90s. So I think that those were the big influencers.
Nice, man. And I tell you what, like, I love hearing that, you know, that there's other influences around. Like, I feel like people just like think, oh, you've been a comic book collector all your life. Like, you just happen to be in it and you're, you know, you're just, that's who you are. But it's like, there's so many things that can influence that are outside of comics. And as you're saying, those TV shows, definitely, a lot of the ones you named, hit home. They hit home for everybody in some way, especially if you grew up in the 90s, for sure. And so it's, I mean, even getting, for me, like really getting into things on a more current level, like the current Marvel films, another, you know, big way, another avenue that really gets you into wanting to explore some other things. So, and it's cool that your dad, he started bringing stuff home for you. Do you recall your first time, like, going into some sort of comic book shop or a Comic-Con or some sort at that younger age, like you do now, maybe?
Yeah, so like I think it's important to bring up too that throughout my life, and I'm sure this is another thing for comic book collectors out there. You know, like you dabble in comic books, right? And then you kind of take a break. And then like in high school, like when Spider-Man movies started coming out by Sam Raimi, like I got back into collecting comic books, especially
Mhm.
Marvel Zombies. When Marvel Zombies came out when I was in high school, like that was like I was like, oh man, I gotta read that. My favorite characters, zombies eating people. Like, yeah, that's up my alley. I gotta read that.
Yeah.
So, like, you know, and then you take a break again because you know during high school you're looking for a job. You know, I was heavily focused on my karate training,
Mhm.
and so like you know coming back into it. So like I went to my first time going to a con. So to answer your question, I went to a con and I can't remember what year it was. It was maybe 2013, 2014,
Mhm.
around that time.
Yeah.
And you know, I remember going to this Comic Con and seeing like all these books that were huge keys. Like, my God, like this is the first appearance Doctor Octopus is featured on a comic book. Like, and look how much money it is. Like, holy cow, this is insane. This is cool. And then you get to meet some of the artists and like, oh my God, you're the artist that did this book right here. And it was just like a mind blowing experience. Like, you know, and again, bringing up that I fell in love with Marvel Zombies. Guess who was at that Comic Con that day? Was the variant cover artist Arthur Sidum. And that just
Oh,
blew my
nice.
mind. I was like, I have to get something from this guy. So of course I got like 5 prints from him signed by him, and he had books right there, and I had him sign one of my books, and you know that's just one of the things that got me like back into it. And you know then again you take a break. So like I was heavily into comic books like throughout my high school years. Like
Mhm.
it got to a point where like you know skipping out on lunch to keep my lunch money to go to the comic book store. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's just doing stupid stuff like that.
Right.
And you know going seeing the con, but you know I have to take a break. And for like years I was you know into comic books. Like I wasn't collecting comic books or reading comic books, but still was very in love with those characters
Sure.
and was still keeping up with what was going on with those characters. You know what I mean? Even if I
Yeah.
wasn't reading comic books. So
Right.
like so I just got my first full-time job where I'm working at right now. Okay.
Mhm.
And this one day my boss walks in from lunch and he goes, hey, have you ever been to the time capsule up down the road? I was like, no, what's that? He goes, oh, it's a comic book shop and they also sell records. I go there for the records. And I'm like, comic book shop? Like, oh, really? Like, okay, like I'm gonna have to go there sometime. So that piqued my interest right away. So I do partially blame my boss for getting me heavily back into comic books, because the day I went into this comic book store, when I opened the door, and I've done a tour of the shop, it's called the Time Capsule.
Mhm.
It's just boxes and boxes and boxes of books. And I remember opening the door and the shop owner was right there, and he's like, hey, like I've never seen you here before, like, hey, can I help you, can I give you a tour of the store? And I was like, yeah, absolutely, like like this place is dangerous, like. And that's it, man, like I was hooked ever since then. And this is around the same time where Batman and the Teenage Mutant Turtles had their own comic book again.
Mm.
Not again, but they were starting to have that series, and I just thought that was so interesting, and
Yeah.
I started collecting that, and I've just been hooked ever since, buddy.
Oh my gosh, dude. Let me just say that very similarly, this was like 2.5, yeah, I guess 2.5 years ago. My boss he actually was leaving the company. He's like, hey man, you want to go out our last lunch and go grab pizza? And you know, I know this comic book shop nearby, and like I always knew about comics, I just never like really explored them. And I was like, yeah, sure. And I remember we went together, and he too, like we went in together, and he was buying stuff and I wasn't gonna buy anything. And he's like, no, dude, you come into a comic shop, you gotta buy something. You gotta support, you know, the local comic shop. Like, I'm like, oh, okay, well, I'll get it. I'll buy. So I bought like 2 issues
Yeah.
and I brought them home. I was like, what am I gonna do with these two? All right, I'll read them. And I was just hooked ever since then. And so
Yeah.
it's just funny that you had that kind of story with your boss of kind of re getting you back into this thing.
And that's how it all started, man. It was just a snowball effect, and it was just like getting crazy. Like, and then like I would leave that comic book shop like almost every week buying books. Like, oh yeah, I gotta read that. I gotta read that. I was buying trade paperbacks, and I was like,
Yeah.
yeah, because I like the trade paperbacks. You know, I thought floppies were kind of like too much room, and here I am buying floppies,
Right,
all
right,
these back issues, and then I'm pulling out all the comic books that I used to have in high school out of my closet, looking them over like, oh man, these are still in great condition, and
yeah.
stuff like that. So
Yeah, no, it's a different world, especially as you already owned a couple books from when you were younger. It must have been exciting to kind of consider like, oh, maybe I have some books that are, worth a little money, or even just bringing back old memeries. Uh,
yeah.
so
And
that's
then like finding even some that were like not in decent shape anymore. Like it's like, I'm sorry I did this to you.
you overloved them. You overloved them. Oh my goodness. I wanted to say a quick hello. I saw Off-White Tim was in the house from a little earlier, so great to see you, brother. And also Nigel, Desired Comics, is hanging out as well. Been going back and forth with him and over on Instagram. So Nigel, always good to see you, man. So you talk a little bit about the breaks that you've had.
Yeah.
So when was it that when you got back into things, like were you established on platforms like YouTube and Instagram from a comic perspective at that time, or when was it that you actually decided, hey, I'm going to do this comic thing, and dive into it on both of these platforms,
So, I mean, a lot of my Instagram is my karate stuff. I do post a lot of comics,
Mhm.
and so like when I first got back into comic books, like my focus was not to even show comic books. It was like, oh yeah, this is cool. Maybe other people will think this is cool too. You know what I mean?
Right.
And like the YouTube thing, the YouTube thing is a whole different story. Like I went to this con with my brother, and this was even before the one I talked about. This is like years after. And this is like me getting full force back into comic books,
Mhm.
and I'm buying books at this con. This is where I bought my first ASM 300 raw book, and like my brother was like astonished that I paid $180 for a comic book. He's like, that doesn't sound like you. I'm like, dude, I can't believe I did it either. I spent $300 on the con that whole weekend, and I just felt absolutely disgusted at myself. Like, I can't believe I spent this much money on on comic books. Like I felt sick the first time I bought my first slabbed book, my Secret Wars #8, which is an 8.5. I have it not slabbed anymore. I cracked it open, and I spent $80 on the book, and I'm like, oh man, like I can't believe I just spent $80 on a book. Like my wife is going to kill me. And now that just doesn't seem like nothing anymore. Like if it's a key book for $80, I'm just like, yeah, I don't even question it. I'm just like, yeah, here's $80. Yeah. It's like, oh, what's your PayPal? Yeah, okay, let's do this.
Yep.
So like, it's just nothing. But so getting back to the story, my brother went to a con. And after the days were over at the Comic-Con, we would go live on our Facebook, and we would just talk about our day and what we picked up and what happened on that day at the Comic-Con. And my boss happened to see those videos, and I work for a TV studio for people who don't know. And he was like, hey, why don't you guys come and do a show about comic book stuff? And we were like, wow, like this is a pretty big opportunity. This is pretty cool. And this is my boss talking. Like my boss is allowing me to go do a show while I'm at work. We're like, wow, this is crazy.
Yeah.
So my brother started doing the show Superpower Review. So he was going to be the video game aspect of the show, and I was going to be the comic book aspect of the show, which is why we have the Power logo on the show, because that was like to implement video games and whatnot. So
Right.
so unfortunately it didn't last long between us. It lasted 5 episodes, and so he kind of wanted to go branch off and doing his own thing. Traveling to the studio was a far distance for him, and he thought that the video games and comic books weren't working out, so he went to go do his own thing, and I was really bummed about that. And I didn't think I could do the show on my own. And then I was like, I put so much work into doing the show, building up the intro, the graphics, and the content, the set. I was like, I got to keep doing this. So like after a 2-month hiatus, I brought it back. I brought on a guest, And I was like, okay, maybe I can do this. And so I did. And, I have to say, I wasn't good on my own for a long time. It took me a very, very long time to get comfortable because the set, the lights in the studio, it's super intimidating. And it still gets me to this day sometimes. You know what I mean? I'm far more comfortable talking here with you than sometimes I'm at the studio recording a show. You know what I mean? So, but that's pretty much the origin story of Superpower Review. And I've been doing it for 4 years now, and we've been going strong.
Wow, 4 years straight. That's great.
Yeah.
That is awesome, man. Very cool. I was curious kind of how that, and I didn't know as much about your kind of what you do for work and things like that. So seeing it all kind of, piece by piece here now, it definitely makes sense. I see, I want to say a quick hello to Alan. What's up, Alan? Clavin Comics hanging out in the chat. Good to see you. Also, Copy 801 was in the chat earlier. Said he's heading to stop at the 3 Minute in the Basement crawl. Nice. I saw them going over in Connecticut.
I thought about doing that today, and but you invited me to the show. I was like, I'm gonna go do that.
Yeah, they're. I like that they do those. I feel like they're doing them, once a month or every so often, which is pretty cool. A great way to kind of meet up with some community members. So with that, then when did you know about the community when you were like putting this YouTube thing together? Like, did you even have a clue as to like the friends that you now have and that any?
Not at all. Like when I put a video up on YouTube, so I would have to say that my channel got a little more well known about maybe 2 years ago, or when the channel like reached about 400 to 500 subs. Okay. I had no clue that there was a community here on YouTube. I would put up a video and it was just pretty much like, hello, is there anybody out there? And it just got nothing. And when I finally realized that there was a community out here, I was just like, oh man, like there's so many other people like me, and I had no clue. And that was a huge breakthrough for the channel, other people's channels, and just creating amazing friendships throughout this community. There's so many people that I just have, I totally support, and I appreciate so many people like John's Comics with Kids, the boy who had 7, and all, Rod the Rican. Like, those people helped me out so much to get to where I am today. And there's so many more. And if you guys are watching, and if I'm forgetting you, you're there. The love for you is there. You know what I mean? I don't forget about anybody.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, and I imagine that list could be pretty long with the amount of people you've met throughout these couple of years. I know I can speak just from that on Instagram, and I was very similar to you when I made my Instagram account, where I'm just like, I'm just gonna start taking cool pictures of comic books and see if anybody likes them. And I don't know, maybe I really didn't know. I just was like, I have all these comics now. I started buying them. I'm like, let me just start sharing.
Right. Then, I mean, I knew like about the community on Instagram, like the IG comic family is like the #1 hashtag. I knew about that. And I was like, man, I wish there was some more love of that level on YouTube. Right. And then there was, and it finally kind of like broke through, and it's like, oh wow, there are people here. Like, hey.
Yep. And YouTube for me was I mean, I never considered even looking to YouTube. I don't know why. I mean, obviously it's such a massive platform. And just getting into Instagram and seeing people, I see names again and again and again. And then I slowly started seeing people saying like, doing this over on my channel, doing that over on my channel, doing group stuff and all these other things. I'm like, oh, cool. And I just started, even now, I feel like there's like this semi-separation between comic YouTubers and comic Instagrammers.
That's true. Yeah, that's a real thing.
Right? I mean, like there's some people, like I consider myself in the middle, and I'm trying to really push for bringing everybody together. But I do feel like, if I talk to someone on Instagram, I'm like, hey, man, go check out my show over on YouTube. They're like, YouTube? What?
Yeah, right.
I have to leave this app to go to another app. I'm like,
it's so true. Cool. It's so true. Like, hey, guys, I have this comic unboxing. You want to see the comics? Go check out my YouTube channel. Like, no, man. Like, I'm just going to wait until you post them here.
yeah, share it here, man. Why can't you share it here?
It's so true.
Oh man, it's interesting. It's really funny. But I mean, I see people slowly coming together, and more and more people kind of crossing over on both platforms, which is great. I want to say a quick hello to the Nerd Herd Comic Book Club. What's up? He says, "What's up, guys?
What's up, Dino?"
Well. Thanks for stopping in. I appreciate it. Steve also chiming in saying that the community is in fact amazing, beyond amazing. Agreed.
It's
Totally
true.
agreed. Got me some pops is questioning if I have a YouTube show. What? Yeah, man. So very cool stuff. Let's talk a little bit about the actual comic books. First question for you is, what are you currently reading right now? What is give me a couple titles that are in your pull list, I guess you could say.
So funny thing is about me, I'm not a huge new comic book day guy.
Okay.
So like the only title I'm reading right now is Venom, and
Okay.
so I'm a huge Venom fan, always have been. And to kind of go back more into the origin, when I first saw Spidey wearing that black suit in the animated show, that's when I first fell in love with this suit and Venom. So that's how long I've been such a huge Venom fan. But I'm reading Venom, and another funny thing about pull lists is that this guy has never ever had a pull list.
Wow. There you
Never
have
had
it,
a pull
folks.
list.
Wow. Yeah, look, I mean, right now I just opened a pull list, but I got away from pull lists for a while just because I felt so like held down and like
Yes,
obligated to like,
exactly,
so
exactly.
yeah, I ended up just creating a pull list recently because it got me like a discount at a store that's actually far away from me, even though I consider them my LCS now. They're over in California. But yeah, other than that, I mean, I totally hear where you're coming from with that. And well, if it's not new stuff, then what? I mean, are you reading anything older, anything that's come out, years beyond? And what are you reading right now in that regard?
So I just finished up my Absolute Swamp Thing book 2, volume 2, which collects the Alan Moore run and Stephen Bissett art and stuff. So I just got done finishing that, and that's absolutely amazing. I mean, to anybody who has not read Swamp Thing, I always highly recommend it to anybody, because if you're, are you reading it?
I know I need to read it. It's been
Yeah.
on my list because Alan Moore, I've just heard amazing things always from that
You
guy.
have to, okay? And the reason why I would recommend Alan Moore Swamp Thing to anybody is because if you're kind of like sick of the whole superhero get up, like the whole damsel in distress and I got to save the world or I got to save the city from this villain, you got to try Swamp Thing. I mean, if you're a person who likes sci-fi, horror, and a little more, a little violence in your books, I highly recommend it. I mean, the artwork alone is just amazing, and just the artist in that in those volumes, Stephen Bissett, I actually had on my channel for an interview, and that he was an amazing guy. So, check Alan Moore alone is just an amazing writer. And even before with Alan Moore touching Swamp Thing, you had the original creators, Len Wein and Bernie Wrightson, and those first 10 issues are just amazing. I mean, I think Swamp Thing has been really lucky and had great writers and artists. And Swamp Thing is not for everybody because he's very under the radar. You know what I mean? But it's an absolutely amazing read.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely would say under the radar for sure. From what I've, you don't hear as many people talk about the character in general, but definitely have heard some amazing things about Alan Moore's stuff for that. Nerd Comics is saying, rumor has it that Kevin spends 23 hours a day reading Spider-Man 300, and he sleeps only 1 hour a night.
I have them all in bed with me. I kick my wife out once a week, and then I just put them in bed. I'm like, it's all right, it's all right.
Man, I see James in the house. For the love of comics, good to see you, James. Just had him on the channel not too long ago. Always appreciate you stopping in. Steve here says he's down with it. Sounds like he might check it out as well. DJ Lynx is in the house. What's up? What's up?
Good guy.
Thanks for stopping in. Cool. So speaking of some books and 300 and other words that we were just saying, you have some cool books that you want to share, something that means something special to you?
Sure.
Let's see what you got.
So, like, going along with, back in my story, when I was back into collecting comic books in high school, I used to do a lot of research on older books and be like, man, I would love to own that book someday. And I think when I was in high school, I think an ASM 300 was like maybe like 100, 125 bucks. And I used to be like, no way, like, I'll never own that book. You know what I mean? Like, I'll be happy with $1 copy. And so especially with Secret Wars 8 and Hulk 181. Like, oh, I'll never own that book. So like there was this thing, okay, like so Secret Wars number 8 and ASM 300. Those were like the two, like my two grails. Like I'll never own those books. Like I'll never spend $100 on a comic book. That's just insane. And so when I got back into collecting after my boss got me into comic books, it's like, like I work full time. I'm making good money. Like let's buy these comic books. And it just started with a whole horde. So, here's one of my copies. This is a copy when I bought when I first got back into going to Comic Cons, and because I found out Mike Zeck was there, I was like, wait, Mike Zeck is here? Like, nice. Holy crap, that's the guy who made the black suit. Like, I got to find a copy of this and have him sign it. And Absolutely. Of course he did. And so I kept this book for the longest time so I could meet these two other guys and actually get them to sign it too. So here's one of the copies of Secret Wars number 8. So, I don't want to keep anybody's time too much, but here's 2. Oh, yeah. And we're gonna have like octopus arms. Here's 3. This is the one that was graded that I spent $80 on.
Oh, okay. Nice newsstand.
Yeah, newsstand. And we got this guy. It's just so it got to a point where it's like, yeah, I never had this book and I always wanted this book, so let's just hoard the crap out of them because I felt like I was clearly missing out, right? And here's one of my favorite ones. This one is actually sketched by Mike Zeck with a Venom on it.
Oh, that is so cool, man. That is dope.
And last one.
I like the mug you got too in the background.
Oh, thanks, buddy. And of course, we have to have the 9.8. So, I just had to absolutely hoard these books because, like, I don't think I'm ever going to have one of these. And, hoarding them is kind of one thing. You say, like, oh, yeah, I got these books. But, I mean, it turns out to be pretty beneficial. Not that I'm going to sell them, but
right,
they are going up in value, aren't they? Yep. So same thing with ASM 300. You know what I mean? I was like, oh, Venom, like, oh, first appearance of Venom, like I gotta have that. You know what I mean? So
let's say quick hello to Comic Book Huber. What's going on, brother?
So we have a ton of 300s.
Oh my gosh, dude, this is insane. And you were not joking, man. Oh,
I wasn't joking. Hold on. Wait. As they say in the infomercials, wait, there's more.
Wait, there's more. Oh my gosh, dude. Wait, when you said I got my 300s and I heard the S on the back end of the 300s, I was like, oh, all right. So he's got. I wasn't picturing this many. That's so great. I love it.
So there's 8 of each. Yeah. Wow. And no, I mean, I would never buy a 300 now with the prices that they're going at right now. So
right.
Luckily, I got these for a fairly good deal when they were fairly reasonable. But this one is my favorite, of course. This one's triple signed. This one's signed by Stan Lee, Todd McFarlane, David Michelini, and he also quoted it. We are Venom.
My gosh.
So this one. This one was originally bought as a 9.0, and it was only signed by Stan Lee. And I added the other signatures, and people, I didn't know anything about pressing then. Mm-hmm. And the people were like, yeah, dude, you got to press this thing. You got to press this thing. This thing needs a press. It could totally benefit. I'm like, all right, like I'll take the risk. And when I unboxed this thing, and this thing was a 9.4, I freaked out. I was like, oh my God, I can't believe it. And when I sent it in for the David Michelini signature, like I didn't ask for this. And so the guys who know me really well, who know I'm a fairly regular customer to them, they're like, oh, Kevin loves Venom. Like this will blow his mind. Let's do this for him. So and they had that done. I was like, man, I wasn't even expecting that. Like that's kind of cool. So yeah, so that's a piece of my insanity.
Oh my gosh.
With my 300s. And so and then like again doing research in high school about like Wolverine. Like Wolverine first appeared in an Incredible Hulk comic book. Like that blew my mind. I was like, that doesn't even make sense. Right. And like Black Panther first appeared in a Fantastic Four book. Like, why would they do that?
I don't
So
get it. Yeah.
yeah, I don't get it. So like again, like I'll never own one of those comic books. I'll never own an Incredible Hulk 181 with the first Wolverine, and and dreams do come true eventually. You just got to work at them. You know what I mean? You got to be smart. You got to come up with a game plan.
Damn.
And eventually you do own these books. You know what I mean? It's true what they say never, because you just don't know what's going to fall in place with you and what's going to happen in the future. So, so like some of these books are my grails, you know what I mean? It's clearly that's why I have 8 of them. That's why I hoard. I was just like, yeah, another one. I was like that DJ, that rapper, like another one.
Yeah.
So those are just some of the things that I collect. And here's another book. This was, talking about Swamp Thing, and getting into Swamp Thing and that becoming like one of my new favorite characters. This was something that I bought last year. This was like the big key for last year. So this is the first appearance of Swamp Thing. This is a House of Secrets number 92. And so this is a really big book to have. So
that is just, I love that cover. I know it's such an iconic cover nowadays. I feel like
you
see people doing like homages and things like that and cover swipes with that. So congrats, man. That is beautiful. Nice grade too on a 7.5. I know that book has gone up, so it
has, yeah. And a lot of these books have gone up. I mean, I didn't bring it with me, but last year as well, I picked up my ASM 129, and that book has gone up. And it's true what they're saying. A lot of people are jumping on the bandwagon with comic books because now it's the number one investing hobby right now. So that's kind of crazy.
Yeah, I mean, and especially seeing all these like Netflix series and movies that are coming out, it's just building the hype even more for people who maybe haven't really dabbled in comics before, and now they want to get in. I wanted to highlight here, Nerder Comic Book Club said that that's the real reason that those books are going up in value. Talking about I think the 300s, they're hard to come by because Kevin owns them all. Yeah.
Hey, I said I was going to bust them out for the show. I was like, yeah, I'll bust them out for the show. I mean, I know people, I love seeing people's reactions about them because like some people are just like he wasn't kidding. He really has 8 of them.
Yeah, it's insane. I like Alonzo here saying we are amazing.
That's a good one.
Thought that was great. Yeah, man. Off White Dem talking great looking copy. There's a method to my madness. Steve is talking about. Yeah, man. We all have a system on trying to figure out how we can get our hands on some of these bigger books. And like you said, man, never say never. You definitely come across books at times where it's just not planned and it just works out. And it's great when that can come, happen. So definitely nice to see that in the collection for you. I wanted to bring it around to talking a little bit about, we talk about new collectors, we talk about people that are jumping into the hobby now, and especially being inspired from some of the movies that have come out and Netflix shows and things like that. If you were to talk to somebody brand new, just about to jump into the hobby itself, whether it's reading or collecting or any other angle that they want to go at it as, do you have any piece of advice for a new collector or a new reader, just generalized, or if you have something specific that you would give them?
That's a hard question because I don't really like when I think of this, it's hard because I would have to say, and well, I'll answer it in a way if I was talking to my past self. How's that?
Sure, absolutely.
I would say don't get involved in the hype, which I never really did actually. So don't get involved with the hype or spec. You know what I mean? And just read something, get into something that you think is cool and you think you would enjoy. You know what I mean? And try to be smart about it. You know what I mean? Like if I have these books and, I have, in my opinion, I think a really awesome collection, a unique collection because nobody else has my collection. You know what I mean? Yeah. And so I would just say, collect over time, be smart. Not everything is comic books. You have to be responsible. You know what I mean? So buy books, but also put away money.
I think that's definitely one of the biggest takeaways, and something I had to make sure I managed when I first really got into things, because it's so easy to just start buying things, especially out of FOMO or out of
Mhm.
hype of other people talking up books, talking up characters, where you kind of get lost in it, and it can almost ruin the hobby for you, or the experience, if you do it wrong,
Sure.
or if you're not careful. And then, yeah, I mean, you hear stories of people going in debt, or not prioritizing properly, and that can go to any hobby, really. Anything that you love, you got to remember, at the end of the day, it is a hobby. So you have your priorities. You want to make sure you take care of your family and your health, and all that stuff before anything else. So
Yeah, it's
um,
true. That's one thing that, it hurts to see. Like, I've seen it, a dozen times on Instagram, where someone is like, I just bought this book. I finally got it. And then some family emergency happens where, like, the emergency is, I don't know, $500 for say. And like some people can't even cover that. And, they have to sell their collection and stuff. And,
yeah.
I was listening to the radio one time on coming home from work, and it's not that I listen to the radio a lot, but it's just background noise. But a
Mhm.
radio station came on and said a lot of people don't have enough savings to cover a $500 emergency. And I'm just like, wow, like that's tough. You know what I mean? So if you're like one of those people and you're collecting comic books, maybe, don't listen to me. I mean, do whatever you want to do. It's up to you. But it's some things where you just gotta, take a look at, and sit back and really think about some of the things that you're doing and what you got to do.
100%, man. I think that's great advice. And again, anybody that's approaching the hobby, as we said, it's easy to get carried away. It's easy to get excited, because it's an exciting hobby to be in, but you want to be able to prioritize that stuff for sure.
For sure. And I have one more piece of advice too,
Yeah,
for anybody who's collecting comics. One of my things, everyone collects things differently. Everyone has their own processes and methods.
sure.
But one of my biggest tips to a comic book collector or someone who's getting into comic books, I know a lot of credit card companies have cashbacks, or you can earn cash by using the credit cards. I never pay for comic books with credit cards.
Yeah. Yeah, I've certainly heard mixed stories, and I know some people can use it. You can use it to your advantage. Obviously, if you are prepared to be able to take care of those monthly payments, or do bills. But then I've heard disaster stories where people go into debt, and debt that they can't necessarily handle.
Yeah.
All based. I mean, it's just like a kid getting a credit card for the first time. Almost, it's like it can be dangerous.
Oh yeah, you can get so, like, credit card debt and comic book collecting. That's a whole. Those are two wormholes that you can definitely get down and deep into, and it'll be hard to get back out
Yeah.
of. You know what I mean?
Yep. They can tie hand in hand dangerously, in a way. That's for sure. Well, great advice, man. I really appreciate that. And I always like to talk about some of this stuff, because I feel like it's important that people who have been in the hobby for a bit to kind of share advice like this, and just giving their 2 cents. And like you said, at the end of the day, it's what you're comfortable with. It's
Yeah.
how you want to approach with your process. But it is good to hear what other people have to say, especially based on maybe things that you've actually gone through, or you've experienced, or you've seen close friends or family experience. So you definitely want to be able to learn that way than to live through it yourself, if you can. So I like to have that part on the show, and just have my guests kind of share some things like that. So I appreciate you sharing that advice, and definitely anyone out there that's just starting to collect, maybe, I mean, definitely consider that.
Yeah, for sure.
So I want to jump into that kind of wraps a lot of the main questions I wanted to ask you, but I want to get a little bit into the fun stuff, the rapid questions. I kind of gave you a heads up about it earlier. So let's dive into that, and then we'll kind of wrap up the show, and you can share what else you have going on before we close out. I do want to also highlight Nigel was saying here. Excellent advice. Yeah, credit card debt, etc. Yeah, for sure.
Thank you.
Something to keep in mind. All right, so let's jump right into the rapid questions. First things first, and I mean, I guess you kind of already answered this, but yeah, if you had to choose one character to be your favorite superhero character of all time, good or bad, like who's the number one character that you would choose if you couldn't choose anyone else?
It's hard, man, because like it changes from day to day. Like I have my top three, and none of them take first place.
Mhm.
But I think maybe the next thing that I'm going to be doing in the next couple of months will definitely answers that question. So next month, I'm officially going to be getting my first comic related tattoo,
Ooh,
and I'm getting Venom tattooed on me. And so I think that
I love
maybe
it.
answers the question that I've always had a thing for that black suit, the white
Mhm.
spider, like my top three are Batman, Spider-Man, Venom, and they're always competing for for that number one spot. But it's just hard because I love them for so many other things. You know what I mean? But when it comes to like characters like monsters, teeth, angry eyes, those are the things that I'm really like sort of drawn to. And I think that's why I really love one of my favorite artists, which is Todd McFarlane. I think that's why I like him so much,
Mhm.
because he likes the same things as I do. He likes to draw eyes. I like to draw eyes. He likes to draw teeth. I like to draw teeth. He likes to draw monsters because there's no monsters on Earth and there's nothing to be proportionate toward. So it can be
Sure.
anything and look like anything, and it's going to look scary. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I kind of gear toward that a lot.
Nice. I like it. I like it a lot. Well, speaking of with artists and stuff, if you had the opportunity to have, let's say, an hour dinner where you could pick their brain, what creator, whether it's an artist or writer or editor, alive or dead, if you had that 1 hour, who would that one creator be for you if you could really sit down with them and pick their brain and hang out?
Yeah, it would be Todd McFarlane for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you ever actually like met him in person, even in signings or things like that?
No, I haven't.
No.
So
Okay.
I recently just posted a video on my YouTube channel showing off every single Todd McFarlane signature I have in the comic book collection. And it's so funny. I have 13 books signed by this man, but I have never met him. And I've had an opportunity to meet him, but I just unfortunately couldn't.
Man, well, I hope that when things open up again in the world, that you get that opportunity, because I hear he's an amazing guy, and I don't think he's too hard to track down in terms of catching him at the next big con or whatever once the
Yeah.
pandemic's over. So, and he's got many years ahead of him. So, definitely someone you could kind of make that realistic to some degree, I'm sure.
If I were to get Todd McFarlane on Superpower review, I'd retire.
Hey, never say never, right? Never say
That's
never.
right. We said that. That's right.
Yeah, absolutely. You just never know. That'd be awesome. That'd be awesome. What about when it comes to superhero powers? If you could have one, what would that power be for you?
That's a good one. I've never really thought about that myself. Uh, if I had a superpower, I wish that anything could happen with using my imagination.
Okay, kind of like a Green Lantern kind of style, right?
Sure. Right. Yeah.
I like it. I like it. It's refreshing too, because I always joke now about it, but we do get a lot of guests that say flight, so it's nice to kind of hear something a little different here and there. But very cool, very cool. I want to shift gears a little bit. Have just a couple questions, non-comic book related,
Okay.
and we'll start with. It kind of goes into your other hobbies, so I want to start with this. Are you a sports guy, or athlete of any sort, and or not even athlete, but just are you a sports guy? And if you are, what are your favorite teams? And then I want to lead into a little bit about your other hobbies that you're also known for.
Sure. So I'm not into sports.
Okay.
I will watch hockey occasionally
Okay.
and soccer. But if a home team of mine is, going for a championship, I'll definitely watch that game.
Yeah. Okay. That's fair. That's fair. And now, of course, with your Instagram name, Karate Kevin, what does that come from? Tell us a little bit about that.
So I know I post a lot of stuff. Sorry for my dogs.
It's okay.
I know I post a lot of stuff about comic books, and I have a YouTube channel about comic books. But my number one passion is my martial arts. I've been training now for I think 14 to 15 years in Shotokan karate,
Wow.
and I train in it every single day. For at least 2 hours if I can get the time in, whether it's weightlifting, just practicing anything. That's my number one. And I've been teaching it now for 4 to 5 years as well.
Wow.
Unfortunately, with the pandemic going on, I haven't been able to teach, and I miss my students so much. I really do, and I miss teaching because teaching was very important to me, because teaching it is also another way of learning.
Learning,
And
yeah.
so that's where the name Karate Kevin 67 comes from. So when I first joined Instagram, it was my email, and I didn't know you could pick a name. It just used my Gmail name, so it was like Karate Kevin 67. I was like, okay, that works for me.
Yeah. I was a little curious about the 67. It does rhyme. It rolls off the tongue nicely. So DJ Link saying that you're the inspiration behind Cobra Kai. There it is. I've heard Cobra Kai is really good.
I've heard it's really good too, and I've had my students message me. I've had people message me like, "Hey, have you watched this? Like, what do you think about it?" I'm like, "I haven't watched it."
They just assume you're the guy. I wanted to hit the wrong one here. Martial arts is legit, man. Really defines a person, and you get so much back from it. Absolutely, yeah. I've heard so many things about just the discipline and the commitment that it takes to do something like that, and to really be, as you said, what you said, 14 years, 15 years that
14 to 15, I can't remember.
That's incredible. That
Time
really
flies.
Yeah, that it certainly does. But it's really cool, and it's cool that you're able to teach that to others. I mean, I know right now you're on a little bit of a break, but hopefully you get back to that soon, because I think it helps the world. I think it helps a lot of people that do get involved with certain activities like that. I have a couple of nephews who are involved in something similar to that, and I feel like it just kind of puts them on the right track. So
it will definitely, martial arts definitely will make you explore a part of yourself that you never thought would exist. It's true. And there's been so many times, like when I train vigorously. I train seriously. Like I take it very seriously. Yeah. And like there are just times where I'm just so beat and I don't think I can go on, and like, oh, maybe I'll cut it 15 minutes short. And you're like, no, those 15 minutes that you're going to put in those are the extra 15 minutes you need and make the difference. So you go on, you keep going.
That's the growth. That's the extra growth right there, for sure. I love that, man. I absolutely love that. So no, not really much on the sports, but I like the idea of what you're saying, that if one of your teams are kind of making a run for it, you support those, and I'm sure you might know people who are fans. So it's always nice. I really enjoy certain sports, so something that brings me together with others for sure. What about let's talk about a little bit about music. Are you a music guy at all? And if so, what are you currently listening to now? And what's like your number one artist or band, just in general?
All right. So I am a music guy. I used to be more influenced in music when I was a teenager. When I was a teenager, I was a huge punk rocker. I loved hardcore punk music, Sex Pistols and all that jazz. So if I were to like my number one band, like I can listen to this band any day at any time, just pop in a CD, put it up on YouTube, is Misfits. I can listen to the Misfits anytime, any day. With Glenn Danzig, of course, nobody else.
Hell yeah.
My favorite bands right now to listen to, I've been really getting into like for like the past few years, and like 80s like horror synthwave. Ooh, okay. So like one of my favorite bands right now is Dance with the Dead. I love that band. It's if you haven't checked out Dance with the Dead, if you like like that whole like 80s synthwave feel with guitars like that, I totally recommend that. It's a really great band.
Nice.
And it's only two guys.
Oh wow, I didn't realize that. So I can picture some of their albums, but I don't know if I've actually really explored them, but I definitely heard of them. I worked in a CD store for many years, so I slowly was getting familiarized with a lot of different artists.
I used to have a huge collection of records, especially with my punk rock records, and I ended up selling those for books. I used to be in a band. I had 3 guitars. I quit the band and I wasn't playing anymore. I sold my guitars for books.
Oh man!
So I've sold a lot for books.
Now we see why you have all those 300. It makes sense now. No, that's great, man. That was my next question was, do you play an instrument, or did you play an instrument? So you used to play guitar. Do you dabble at all anymore? or
No, I mean, I don't have anything. And like, if I go to like a friend's house to chill out, like if they have a guitar, like, oh, can I play that for a second? And, I'll play it. And then I'm like, yeah, this is cool, but I don't miss it.
Oh man, that's great. That's yeah. I used to dabble in piano, and slowly I kind of got out of everything myself. But very cool, very cool. Next question I want to ask you is when it comes to, and I think this is the yeah, we'll wrap up after this. When it comes to if it's a Friday night for you, and it's just you and the wife, and you guys can do whatever you want in terms of what you're going to have for dinner. What is the go-to meal for you, whether it's that you're preparing it yourself, you're going out to eat, you're ordering it to be delivered, no matter the process, what is your go-to meal?
Sushi.
Oh, bingo. Steve in the chat. Steve, you hear that? This man's about sushi. He and I have been talking sushi recently, and he's over on the West Coast. And I'm like, dude, when I get over to the West Coast, we're having sushi together. So, Kev, when I get up to Massachusetts, we got to hit up some sushi, man.
Yeah, there's definitely some good places up here for sure.
Oh, that's great. That's awesome. Yeah, can never go wrong with that. I don't, I know you can pick your spot, and I'm a little wary about certain sushi places, but I'll definitely do some research. But
well, when you come here, we'll definitely grab a bite of sushi, and we'll definitely hit up some comic shops up here because where I'm from, I'm pretty blessed with comic shops. We have great comic shops around here, and
nice.
plus we have a fantastic flea market around here that I've gone comic shopping. I've actually did a video on that. That's where I picked up my Daredevil #1 recently. But this place is great. It's like a mini Comic-Con. Like there's a lot of comic book vendors, and you can find a lot of cool stuff there.
Oh man, those are some of the best places, and I haven't gone to one in a long time. But flea markets and stuff like that, you really can find some hidden gems. That yeah, and you're talking about Daredevil 1. Like my goodness, that is huge. Thank you, DJ Links. I appreciate you for hanging out and checking out the interview. Steve is saying, "Let's go. Let's go. We're going. Get some sushi for sure."
If we have, I know you said you would wrap it up after this question. We have 5 minutes. Could I actually show off some of the art that I do?
Absolutely,
because that's part of like a huge of the origins too. So like, getting back into comic books and always being in love with artwork. I've recently picked up the pencil and pen over the few years, and I've gotten back into drawing. So here's the latest piece I did. This is a Spawn.
Oh my gosh.
And so this is like another one of the things that I'm doing if I'm not reading or training or not working. I'm taking ink to paper and just doing all sorts of stuff. And here is a Venom I did.
Nice. Oh, I love the eyes.
And here is I've been trying to adventure to doing bigger pieces, and so here's like a Dr. Doom I did.
Nice. I love the close-up pieces. Like I always love that angle.
Yeah, so this was supposed to be a commission for someone, and the person told me exactly what they wanted. That's what they said. They wanted a close-up face shot. I was like, yeah, say no more. I know exactly what you want. And then as soon as when I was finished and presented to him, he's like, yeah, I got no money. I'm like, oh man.
Gotta collect first, bro.
And here's another Venom I did. So, and this is one of the pieces that I'm most proud of, to be honest, because like all the detail that I put into this, and this was my first big piece. Like I was so intimidated by all this paper. I'm like, how am I going to fill all this paper? And so that's like another really big thing that I have to be thankful with comic books, that it got me back into expressing myself not only through martial arts but through paper as well. Absolutely. And here's a Batman I did.
Nice.
So yeah, I just wanted to show off that real quick.
Yeah, dude, absolutely, man. I appreciate you showing that off. You got some love here in the chat. DJ Lynch showing off he said original art.
Yes.
It's Nigel also saying nice prints, nice art for sure.
And here's a graph I did too.
Oh, that's dope. Oh man, some TMNT right there.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Yeah, so that's one thing to also be thankful about comic books. It's like, oh man, like these artists, they're so inspirational. Let me see what I can do with a pencil again. And I wasn't, as good as I am now. I definitely have grown really fast within the 2 years. But it's like, yeah, this is definitely nice again to I'm doing this, and I'm happy about doing this again too. So, and whenever people like buy art from me, I'm super humbled. Like, you want to own this? You want to pay
Totally.
money for this and actually hang it up on your wall? Like, thank you.
I can only imagine that, man, because I have chicken scratch when it comes to writing or anything like that. I am not in any way, shape, or form an artist, but can imagine that that type of feeling that you get when someone, yeah, like you said, is willing to actually, give you money for it and own it and want to have it, and hang it up on their wall. Like, it is incredible. So it's very cool, man. Very cool that
Thank you.
that's another angle, another style or hobby that you're into. You're all over the place, man. I love that.
I know a
Absolutely
lot
love
of
it.
people are like, "Yeah, man. Like, what else do you do?" I'm like,
Yeah.
I do actually do a lot, don't I? Like, I never really thought about it.
Well, it's great. I think it's important that we don't keep all our eggs in one basket per se, and like you said, you're able to express yourself in many different ways.
Yeah.
And this just being another avenue to go is really cool. And you never know what you can discover when you do start to dabble in some other things. So I think it's healthy to have some other hobbies, especially I know, so if you're just you focus on comic books, sometimes you can get a little worn out from that. That can be a little overbearing at times. So I think it's a good thing to mix it up a little bit. So
Right.
Steve's talking about stick figures right now. uh yeah, I can
Sign it and
feel
I'll
it.
take it.
Yeah, yeah. Well, dude, Kev, man, this has been so much fun, man. I really appreciate that you've been able to come on here, give me your time to do this. Would love to, hopefully not the last time that we collaborate. Would love to do more with you at some point. Before we wrap up, let people know where they can find you, and let us know about some of your shows that you have coming up, because I know you have something coming up very soon.
Sure. So you can follow me on Instagram at KarateKevin67 if you want to see, any new updates to my collection, or if you, want to see some martial arts stuff. I have been keeping my martial arts stuff a little more to myself, because I will say that posting stuff on Instagram can be a little distracting from training sometimes. So I like to keep it to myself sometimes. But I do post stuff there once in a while. If you want to subscribe to my channel, I appreciate any love and support that the channel receives, whether you're just watching a video, liking it, and you can go the extra mile by subscribing. That would be really awesome. Once the channel reaches 2,000 subscribers, I'm going to be giving away a Spawn #1 CGC graded at a 9.4. And we have lots of stuff coming up. So we're trying to do a new series on the channel where we go live. It's called What's That Comic Book? And it's just hanging out with good people from the community, connecting with the people in the community. And they just pretty much randomly pull a comic book, and they, describe that comic book as much as they can. You know what I mean? So it's a good opportunity to also see what other people collect and why. I go live every Monday at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for the Superpower Hour, and that's just pretty much where I catch you up what's going on with the week with news, and we just kind of discuss stuff. But I record in the studio, I edit my videos, I try to bring the utmost best quality videos I can absolutely produce, and that's pretty much it.
I love it, man. I absolutely love it. And yeah, just saw Nigel was saying that you go live in 30 minutes. You just got your notification.
Yes, I do.
So it's very cool, very cool. Well, guys, you heard it here. You get to know a little bit more about Kevin and his world, and some of the things coming up. So make sure that if you're not already subscribed to him, if you're not already following him over on Instagram, make sure you do that. If you guys are catching anyone that's catching the replay, make sure you do that as well. Appreciate all you guys hanging out with me today. And again, Kevin, thanks so much, brother, for being on this. It's been incredible, this journey of mine, to be able to have these guests on, people like yourself. It really has brought the community even closer in my eyes and in my life. So I appreciate you being part of that and just being a great dude all around. So it's been nice to get to know you, bro.
Thank you so much, Justin. I really appreciate this opportunity. It was really fun to get to hang out with you. Keep doing what you're doing, man, because I absolutely love what you're doing. And I know a lot of people in the community love it as well. I really, again, I'll say it again. I really appreciate, and everyone in the community appreciates, that somebody on their YouTube channel takes time to be somebody with someone in the community and connect them to the community. So good job, man. Keep doing what you're doing.
100%, man. And I appreciate the words. And oh, Joker's in the house. What's up, Joker? We're just wrapping up. Joker's going to be a guest on my show at some point. We were just talking. Alan, thank you, bro. Appreciate it. Steve said done and done, so he's got you subbed up and all. So
Thank you.
Appreciate that. All you guys for hanging out. Catch the replay, and I'll be back next week. I'm going to have Otto from 3 Men in a Basement on as my guest. So
Awesome.
We will be back again same time Saturday, 2:00 Eastern time. Until then, you guys have a great weekend. No football Sunday, but that's okay. And we'll talk to you guys